1966 was the year pop music grew up. The melodies were perfect. The voices were unforgettable. But behind the glamour, there was a cost. Some of these songs almost never made it out. Record deals that weren't fair, voices that were silenced too soon. Moments of pure magic that the industry tried to control. You think you know the pop story of 1966, but there are songs from that year that deserved so much more than they got. Some were buried on purpose, some were stolen in plain sight, and some just broke the wrong hearts at the wrong time. 10 ballads, 10 hidden truths, and at least one story on this list will make you question everything you thought you knew about the music you grew up loving. This is 1966, the pop story they never finished telling. Number 10, The Hollies, A Bus Stop. Picture a bus stop on a rainy English street. Gray sky, wet pavement, to people sharing an umbrella because there is nowhere else to stand, and somehow out of that ordinary and remarkable moment, one of the most charming pop ballads of 1966 is born. That is Bus Stop, and the moment you hear those opening notes, you are standing in that rain too, smiling without knowing why. There is a warmth to this song that is almost impossible to manufacture. It feels accidental, like joy that just showed up. The harmonies float, the melody skips, and Alan Clark's lead vocal has this easy, conversational quality that makes you feel like he is telling you this story personally, like you were sitting across from him at a table somewhere. Bus Stop was written by Graham Goodman, who would later become a founding member of 10cc, and recorded by the Hollies for Parlophone Records in 1966, produced by Ron Richards. The song tells the story of a man and a woman who meet at a bus stop every day and slowly fall in love through the shared ritual of waiting in the rain. It is a love story built entirely from the ordinary. No grand gestures, no dramatic declaration. Just two people and a bus stop and time. It reached number 5 on the UK singles chart and broke into the American top 10, which was a significant achievement for a British act in the middle of a very crowded pop landscape. Here is the fun fact that gives you the full picture. Graham Goodman wrote Bus Stop as a teenager, essentially pitching songs to established acts because he had not yet found a platform for his own recording career. The fact that a song this emotionally complete and melodically sophisticated came from someone so young is remarkable. And the Hollies recognized immediately what they had. The recording came together quickly because the song was already fully formed when it arrived. Why does Bus Stop sometimes get left out of the serious pop conversations about 1966? Partly because the Hollies occupied an interesting middle ground in that era. They were not as radical as the Beatles were becoming. They were not as raw as the garage rock acts. They were polished, professional, and consistently excellent, which somehow made them easier for critics to underestimate. The word commercial got used about them as if it were an insult. But commercial just means people loved it, and people genuinely loved this song. Sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones that look simple. This song is proof of that. Stay with me, because number 9 is one that carries a story about a young woman who was asked to carry far more than any teenager should have been asked to carry. And she did it with a grace that still moves people today. Number 9, Dusty Springfield, Goin' Back. There are songs that sound like the feeling of wanting to be somewhere else, somewhere simpler, Somewhere Before Life Got Complicated and Heavy and Loud, Going Back is one of those songs. And when Dusty Springfield sings it, she does not sound like she is performing a lyric. She sounds like she means every single word with everything she has. This song feels like late afternoon light through a window, like the specific kind of quiet that only comes after something has ended. There is a longing in it that is not dramatic. It is gentle, patient, like someone who has accepted that you cannot go back but keeps looking in that direction anyway. And Dusty holds that feeling with a steadiness that tells you she has been there herself. Written by Gerry Goffin and Carole King, two of the most important songwriters in the entire history of pop music. Going Back was recorded by Dusty Springfield for Philips Records in 1966, produced by John Franz. The song is about the desire to return to childhood simplicity, to a time before adult knowledge, adult pain, adult compromise. It is nostalgic but not sentimental. There is honesty in it that keeps it from becoming soft. It reached number 10 on the UK charts and was later covered by multiple artists, including a famous version by the Byrds, but many serious pop music listeners will tell you that Dusty's original is the definitive recording. Her voice finds something in the lyric that nobody else has quite reached. The fun fact here is one that says everything about the songwriting world of 1966. Goffin and King wrote this song while going through a period of significant personal difficulty in their own relations. The longing for simpler times was not an abstract creative exercise. It was drawn from something real. And Dusty Springfield, who had her own private struggles running beneath her polished public image, recognized that authenticity immediately. Two women singing the same truth across different distances. Why does Going Back sometimes get overshadowed in the Dusty Springfield catalog? Because You Don't Have to Say You Love Me from the same year was so enormous that it became the defining Dusty moment of 1966 in the public memory. When you have two exceptional records in the same 12 months, sometimes one of them absorbs all the light. Going Back deserved its own full moment, its own recognition. And it is still waiting for it in some ways. This song is a conversation between who you were and who you became, and Dusty Springfield understood both sides of it completely. Number 8 is one that I want you to really pay attention to, because the story behind this one involves a level of creative ambition that the pop world of 1966 was not quite ready to receive.
Hey Pop Lore family! Did you know only 1% of viewers are subscribed? If you love deep dives into pop legends, forgotten gems, and the stories behind the songs that shaped generations, hit that subscribe button right now. And don't forget to turn on LL notifications so you'll be the first to know when we premiere our next video. It's free, it helps Pop Lore grow, and it makes sure you never miss a single countdown or music story. Let's build this community together.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful.
Number 8, The Seekers, The Carnival Is Over.
Say goodbye, my own true lover.
If you grew up in Australia or the UK in the 1960s, this song is in your bones. It is in the part of you that remembers things without choosing to remember them. Certain songs do that. They find a place in you before you know they are looking. And The Carnival Is Over is one of the great examples of that kind of pop magic. It is a song about endings, about the moment when something beautiful finishes and you have to walk away from it. And the melody, built on a Russian folk song called Stanka Raisin, carries that weight with a grandeur that feels almost classical. When Judith Durham's voice rises to the top of it, the whole thing becomes something that belongs to a different category than regular pop music. It becomes an experience. The Carnival Is Over was written by Tom Springfield, Dusty's brother, and recorded by the Seekers for Columbia Records in 1965, reaching its full cultural impact through 1966 when it became the best-selling single in Australia for an entire year. Produced by Tom Springfield himself, the song went to #1 in the UK and stayed there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks at the top in one of the most competitive pop markets in the world. In Australia, it was not just a hit, it was a moment of national identity. A song that people felt belonged to them personally.
The dawn is waking.
Here is the fun fact that changes how you hear this record. The melody that Tom Springfield built this song around, that Russian folk tune, carries centuries of history inside it. It was already old when he heard it.
And my tears are falling rain.
Already loaded with the weight of other stories, other endings, other carnival nights. And by placing Judith Durham's pure, crystalline voice on top of that ancient foundation, he created something that felt both utterly current and completely timeless at the same time. That is a very difficult thing to do. Most people never manage it once. He did it on the first try. Why has The Carnival Is Over sometimes been reduced to a nostalgia piece rather than recognized as the serious artistic achievement it is? Partly because the Seekers' image, wholesome, folk-influenced, harmonious, did not fit the direction that pop criticism was moving in the late 60s. Cool required edge, cool required attitude. The Seekers had neither of those things. What they had was craft and sincerity. And for a period, the tastemakers decided those qualities were not interesting enough to take seriously. They were wrong, and this song still proves it every single time it plays. If you are enjoying this journey so far, go ahead and smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second. And it helps this kind of music history reach the people who need to hear it. #7. Petula Clark, I Couldn't Live Without Your Love.
You're the only one that I rely on.
Petula Clark in 1966 was operating at a level that very few pop artists, male or female, could match. She was not just having hits, she was constructing them. She understood the architecture of a pop song in a way that came from years of craft and discipline. And I Couldn't Live Without Your Love is one of the most perfectly built pop ballads she ever recorded. Ed. This song has a bounce to it that hides its emotional weight. On the surface it sounds bright and confident, a woman who knows what she wants and is not afraid to say it. But underneath that brightness there is a vulnerability. A genuine need. And the combination of those two things, strength and need sitting side by side, is what makes it feel so true. Because that is what love actually feels like most of the time. Written by Tony Hatch and Jackie Trent, the songwriting partnership that was responsible for some of the most enduring pop moments of the decade, I Couldn't Live Without Your Love was recorded for Pi Records and produced by Tony Hatch, who had an extraordinary ability to build arrangements that sounded larger than their parts. The song reached #9 in the UK and crossed into the American top 10 as well, adding to a US chart run that had already produced the massive downtown success of the previous year. Petula Clark was one of the very few British female artists achieving consistent transatlantic Success in this period. Here is the fun fact that gives you a sense of who Petula Clark was as a professional. She recorded prolifically in multiple languages throughout this period: French, German, Italian, Spanish, releasing versions of her hits for different European markets simultaneously. She was not just a pop singer, she was a genuine international artist managing multiple creative identities at the same time. The level of work that required, the level of linguistic and emotional flexibility, that is something that rarely gets mentioned in the summaries of her career. Why does this particular song get left out of the main Petula Clark conversations? Because Downtown became so definitively her signature that almost everything else she recorded in this period lives in its shadow. Downtown is one of the great pop records of the entire decade, but that greatness should not make I Couldn't Live Without Your Love invisible. This is an exceptional song by an exceptional artist at the height of her powers. She deserved 10 number ones. The fact that she is sometimes reduced to one song is the real story here. Number 6 is where this countdown takes a turn, because this next entry is one that involves a story I have been building towards since the very beginning of this video. And I think you are ready for it. Number 6, Cilla Black, Alfie. This song arrived in 1966 like a question mark hanging in the air. It did not demand your attention, it asked for it, quietly. And when you gave it, it held you there for the full 3 minutes and made you think about something you had been avoiding thinking about. That is what Alfie does. It looks you in the eye and asks you something real, and it waits for your answer. Cilla Black's voice on this recording is something completely separate from her television persona, from her public image, from everything the British entertainment industry later made her into. This is a young woman standing at a microphone and reaching for something genuine. The song asks what life is all about if you live it entirely for yourself. It asks that question without judgment, without preaching, and somehow, coming from Cilla Black's voice in 1966. It lands with a weight that stays with you. Alfie was written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, two of the most important figures in the entire history of popular songwriting, as the title song for the 1966 film starring Michael Caine.
Then I guess it is wise to.
It was recorded by Cilla Black for Parlophone Records, produced by George Martin, yes, the same George Martin who was producing the Beatles, and it reached number 9 in the UK. Here is where the story gets complicated. In the United States, the film producers chose a different version recorded by Dionne Warwick for the American release. And Dionne Warwick's version received the Grammy nomination and the American chart success. Two versions of the same extraordinary song, two very different outcomes. Now this is the moment I want to spend some time on. Because what happened around Alfie and the decision to use Dionne Warwick's version in America is a story about how the music industry made decisions in 1966, and those decisions were not always made purely on the basis of musical quality. There are different versions of how this unfolded. Some accounts suggest that the American film distributors simply preferred the sound of Warwick's recording for the US market. Others have pointed to the business relationships between the Bacharach-David songwriting team and Warwick. She was closely associated with them professionally. and had a strong track record of American chart success with their material. In interviews over the years, various people connected to both recordings have given different accounts of exactly how the decision was made and why. What is clear is this: Cilla Black's version was not given a genuine opportunity to compete in the American market, whether that was purely a business decision, a matter of industry relationships, or something influenced by the different ways British and American artists were positioned in the mid-60s pop landscape. The result was the same. A recording of real quality and genuine emotional power was kept out of the market that would have given it the widest possible audience. The cultural context matters here too. In 1966, the pathways for British pop artists to break America were narrow and often controlled by American industry gatekeepers who had their own commercial interests in mind. The British invasion had opened some doors, but those doors were not open equally for everyone. And female artists, British female artists in particular, often found those doors significantly harder to push through than their male counterparts. Cilla Black went on to have an extraordinary career in British entertainment, but the American chapter that Alfie could have opened never happened. And the version of her career that might have existed if that door had opened, the international Cilla Black, the transatlantic pop icon, that version is one of the great what-ifs of 1960s pop music. That is why this song is not just music, it is a story about who gets to be heard, and who gets to decide. Number 5 is one that comes from a completely different place emotionally. This one is about a sound that was so ahead of its time that the world needed a few years to catch up with it. Number 5, the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreamin'.
All the leaves are brown, and the sky.
Now technically this was released at the very end of 1965, but its cultural explosion, the moment when it became the sound of a generation, happened in 1966. And there is no honest version of a 1966 pop ballad countdown that leaves this song out. So here it is, and I make no apologies for that. California Dreamin' does not sound like other songs from 1966. It sounds like something that arrived from a slightly different reality. The arrangement is unusual, a flute solo in the middle of a pop song, for voices weaving around each other in ways that felt almost improvised, even though they were meticulously constructed. And the feeling it creates is one of the most specific emotions in all of pop music. Longing for a place that might be more feeling than location, dreaming of warmth when you are standing in the cold. Written by John Phillips and Michelle Phillips and recorded for Dunhill Records. Produced by Lou Adler, one of the most important producers in Los Angeles at that time, the song was built around a realm. Alman, John, and Michelle were living in New York in winter. It was cold, it was gray, and they were missing California in the way that you miss somewhere that represents something larger than just a place. It reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the defining cultural documents of the mid-60s. It has since been used in films, television, advertisements, and cultural moments across 6 decades without ever losing its emotional power. Musician, and Barry McGuire, who recorded Eve of Destruction, one of the most politically charged pop songs of the decade, sang on the original demo version. The Mamas and the Papas replaced his vocals with their own harmonies before the final release. There are different versions of exactly how that transition happened. But what is certain is that the flute, combined with those four voices, created a sound that nobody else was making in 1966. Why does California Dreamin' sometimes get undervalued in serious pop conversations? Because it became so ubiquitous, so present in advertising and film soundtracks and cultural shorthand that people stopped hearing it as a piece of music and started hearing it as a symbol. And when a song becomes a symbol, you stop listening to its details, but the details are extraordinary. Listen to the chord changes, listen to the way the harmonies build and release.
He knows I'm gonna stay.
This is a masterclass in pop construction dressed up as a dream. Some songs become the background noise of history. This one deserves to be heard in the foreground again. We are halfway through this countdown now. Which song has hit you hardest so far? Drop it in the comments. I am reading every single one, because your responses are part of this conversation too. Number 4, Sandie Shaw, Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I'll see him. Tomorrow.
Sandie Shaw is one of the genuine lost stories of 1960s British pop. She had everything: the voice, the look, the timing, and a string of recordings that should have built her into one of the defining international pop stars of her generation.
Tomorrow, he's arriving home after being.
But the way her career was managed, the decisions that were made around her rather than with her, meant that her full potential was never quite realized. And Tomorrow is one of the clearest examples of what was lost.
Away quite some time.
This song has a forward momentum to it that feels almost physical. It leans into the future. It believes in something coming that hasn't arrived yet. And Sandie Shaw's voice carries that hope with a brightness that is completely insentimental.
And then we'll be here thinking of.
She does not beg for tomorrow. She expects it. And that confidence, that refusal to doubt, is what makes the emotional core of the song so affecting.
Been loving him alone. How can I say I don't?
Tomorrow was recorded for Pi Records in 1966. Produced by Chris Andrews, who was also responsible for writing many of her biggest hits and represented a moment in her career when she was operating at genuine artistic peak.
I want him to be mine.
Sandie Shaw had already scored a #1 with There's Always Something There to Remind Me in 1964 and was one of the most recognizable female faces in British pop. This song continued that run of quality even if it did not match the commercial heights of her biggest records.
You trusted me, I know it's true. I broke
The fun fact about Sandie Shaw is one that is now part of pop history legend. She performed barefoot, always. It became her trademark, her visual signature.
the trust of someone new, and I don't like what.
And what started as a practical decision she found heels and comfortable on stage became a defining image that set her apart from every other female pop artist of the era.
I must do tomorrow.
In a world of carefully managed pop images, her bare feet were somehow the most radical visual statement she could have made. They made her look real, grounded, like someone who meant what she was singing.
Tomorrow there'll be tears. I realize.
Here is where the story becomes complicated and worth telling honestly. Sandie Shaw's relationship with her management and the decisions made about her recording career have been discussed in interviews over the years with varying accounts.
That he loves me so, and he really has been so.
What has been said and what she has spoken about publicly is that the level of creative control available to her was limited in ways that she found frustrating. Songs were chosen for her. Directions were set by others.
Good to me.
And the gap between what she was capable of and what the industry allowed her to pursue was significant.
I know
In an era when female pop artists were frequently positioned as products to be managed rather than artists to be developed, Sandie Shaw was navigating a system that was not designed to serve her best interests.
I must let him go, though I'm sorry. It's the way.
The result was a career that produced genuine brilliance in moments, including a Eurovision Song Contest win in 1967, but never fully coalesced into the sustained international presence that her talent warranted.
It must be.
She deserved more creative freedom than she was given, and Tomorrow is a reminder of what she could do when the song was right and the emotion was real.
It just hit me. I know it's true. I love that track.
Number 3 is one that I have been thinking about for this entire countdown, because the voice behind it is one of the most technically perfect instruments in the history of pop music. And the story behind the recording is one that very few people know. Number 3 are Alpert, What Now My Love. Now you might be raising an eyebrow, or Alpert in a pop ballads countdown, but stay with me. Because what he did with this song in 1966 is one of the most emotionally intelligent pop productions of T. Had entire year. And if you have only ever thought of him as a trumpet player with a bouncy Latin sound, this record is going to reframe everything. What Now My Love is a song about standing at the edge of loss and not knowing which direction to go. The original French song at Maintenon had already been recorded in multiple versions. But what Alpert and A&M Records created in 1966 is something that transcends its covers and becomes its own fully realized emotional world. The orchestration builds slowly. The trumpet carries the melody with a restraint that is almost conversational, and the whole thing lands with a weight that a purely vocal recording might not have achieved. Produced by Alpert and Jerry Moss, the two men who founded A&M Records in a garage and built it into one of the most important independent labels in pop history, What Now My Love was recorded with a full orchestra and released as part of the album SRO. It was a significant chart success, reaching the top 5 in the UK and performing strongly in international markets. The album it came from went to number 2 on the Billboard Pop Albums chart. This was not a niche recording, this was mainstream pop at the highest level of craft. The fun fact that puts A&M Records in full context: Alpert and Jerry Moss started their label with almost nothing. They recorded early sessions in Herb's garage. They pressed their own records. They drove them to radio stations personally, and from that garage, they eventually built the label that would sign Cat Stevens, Carpenters, Sting, and dozens of other major artists across multiple decades. What Now My Love was recorded while that empire was still being built. The ambition in the production reflects the ambition of the people making it. Why does this recording get overlooked in serious pop discussions? Because instrumental pop occupies an uncomfortable middle space in music history. It is too structured for jazz purists, too emotional for easy listening categorizations, and too sophisticated for the guitar band focus that dominates most rock history narratives. But the people who know this record, who have actually sat with it, will tell you that it belongs in the conversation about the finest pop productions of 1966. Sometimes the greatest emotion is carried not by words but by a single sustained note from a trumpet in a quiet room. This song proves that. Number 2. And this is one that I feel personally about. because the artist behind it was one of the truly extraordinary talents of the 20th century. And the way the industry handled her story is something that still sits heavy when you know the full picture. Number 2. Nancy Sinatra, You Only Live Twice. Number 2. Nancy Sinatra, You Only Live Twice. Now before anything else, yes, this is the James Bond theme, but what Nancy Sinatra did with this recording in 1967, building on the artistic momentum she had established through 1966, is something that deserves to be examined on its own terms. Completely separate from the franchise, completely separate from her father's shadow, completely separate from the boots that everyone always mentions, just the voice, just the song, just the moment.
It seems one life.
You Only Live Twice is a song about surrender, about choosing love completely, without reservation, without the protection of holding something back. And Nancy Sinatra sings it with a stillness that is genuinely haunting. She does not push
For yourself and one for your dream.
She does not perform. She simply inhabits the lyrics so completely that you feel it happening rather than hearing it being sung. That is a very specific and very difficult thing to do. And she does it perfectly. Written by John Barry and Leslie Bricusse. Recorded for United Artists Records in 1967 as part of the Bond franchise, but carrying the full artistic energy of the creative peak Nancy Sinatra had reached. Through her 1966 work with producer Lee Hazelwood, the song was an international hit and one of the most recognized Bond themes ever recorded. John Barry's orchestration builds her on her voice like architecture. Every element is considered, every instrument knows its place, and in the center of all of it, Nancy Sinatra stands completely still and holds the whole thing together.
Life seems tame.
Here is the fun fact that reframes her entire career. The working relationship between Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood, which produced these boots, are made for Walkin' and a string of other 1966 recordings, was one of the most creatively unusual partnerships in pop history. Hazelwood wrote for her voice specifically. He understood something about the particular quality of her instrument that other producers had missed or underused. And the recordings they made together in 1966 represent a creative peak that the industry at large failed to fully recognize at the time, because the conversation kept circling back to her surname and her father rather than the work itself.
And love is a stranger.
That is the part of Nancy Sinatra's story that deserves honest examination. She was an artist of genuine quality who worked in the permanent shadow of one of the most famous names in entertainment history. Ori. Every review, every interview, every industry conversation was filtered through Frank Sinatra first and Nancy Sinatra second. And while her father was supportive and their professional relationship was real, the consequence of that surname was that her own artistic identity was perpetually secondary in the public conversation. She made extraordinary records. She worked with extraordinary collaborators, and the world spent most of 1966 and beyond discussing her boots and her father instead of her voice and her craft. That is not a small thing. That is a woman's artistic identity being consistently redirected away from its actual substance. And it happened quietly, politely, without any single dramatic moment, which is somehow worse than an obvious injustice, because at least an obvious injustice can be named and confronted. Nancy Sinatra deserved a conversation that started with her music. This is that conversation. Better late than never.
Price. Make one dream.
Number 1. We Are Here. And I will tell you honestly, this is the song that, when I first decided to make this countdown, I knew immediately would be at the top, because it is not just a great pop song, it is a moment of pure human honesty that the pop world of 1966 was not quite ready for, and the story behind it is one of the most quietly devastating in this entire list.
Hey, Pop Lore family! Did you know only 1% of viewers are subscribed? If you love deep dives into pop legends, forgotten gems, and the stories behind the songs that shaped generations, hit that subscribe button right now. And don't forget to turn on LL notifications so you'll be the first to know when we premiere our next video. It's free, it helps Pop Lore grow, and it makes sure you never miss a single countdown or music story. Let's build this community together.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful.
Number 1. The Beatles in My Life. There it is. And before you say it, yes, the Beatles, yes, of course the Beatles. But hear me out. Because In My Life is not on this list because it is safe or obvious. It is on this list because it is the most emotionally complete pop ballad of 1966 and possibly of the entire decade. And because the story behind its creation is one that tells you more about what great songwriting actually costs than almost any other recording from this period. In My Life does not sound like a young man's song. It sounds like someone looking back from a long distance. Someone who has lived enough to understand that the places and people you love change you permanent. Live, whether they stay or go. John Lennon wrote the lyric from a specific exercise he was asked to write about his childhood in Liverpool. To name actual places, actual streets, he tried. The first draft was a list of locations, and then something happened in the rewriting. The specific places fell away, and what remained was the universal feeling underneath them. The love that outlasts the place, the memory that outlasts the person. Recorded at Abbey Road Studios for Parlophone Records in 1965 and released on the Rubber Soul album in late 1965, reaching its full cultural impact through 1966, produced by George Martin, who arranged a harpsichord-style keyboard passage that was actually recorded at half speed and then sped up on playback to create an effect that no real instrument could have produced. That detail alone tells you something about the creative environment the Beatles were working in. They were not just making pop records anymore. They were building sonic architecture. The song reached people in a way that very few pop records do. It was played at funerals, at weddings, at moments when people needed music to hold something they could not find words for themselves. And it continues to do that work today, 60 years after it was recorded. That is not commercial success. That is something rarer and more important. That is art that has earned its permanence. Here is the fun fact that has been discussed and debated by music historians for decades. There is a genuine question about who wrote the music to In My Life. Lennon always claimed the melody. McCartney, in interviews over the years, has suggested that he contributed significantly to the musical structure, that what Lennon brought was the lyric, and that the melody as recorded was substantially shaped by McCartney's input. There are different versions of this story. Both men have told it differently at different points, and the truth, as with most creative collaborations, probably lives somewhere in a space that neither individual account fully captures. But what is not disputed is the outcome. Whatever the process was, however the collaboration unfolded in that particular Abbey Road session, what emerged was a song that has outlasted almost everything else recorded in 1966, a song that people reach for when they need something real, when the ordinary words are not enough and only music will do. The pop world of 1966 was full of ambition, full of craft, full of extraordinary talent, and this song rose above all of it, not through loudness, or controversy, or commercial maneuvering. It rose because it was true, because it said something honest about what it means to love people and places and moments that you cannot keep. And because sometimes the greatest pop music is the kind that stops being pop music and becomes something that simply belongs to human experience. That is number one. That is In My Life. And that is why 1966 was the year pop music found its soul.